It's 7:13. I'm calling the special meeting of the State Committee to order. Before I begin, I'd like to advise the committee that I've appointed one of the most distinguished Republicans in the territory, Fred Valet Jr., as Chief Legal Counsel. He has been an outstanding Republican for many, many years, and as we all know, he's been battling some health issues. And I'm glad to report that he returned to the territory. I had a great talk with him. I was expecting him to be here tonight. His son's on the island. He's leaving again on the 24th for further treatment, but the treatment he's receiving is quite satisfactory. So I'd like to at least acknowledge Fred Valet. He's probably the oldest Republican on the island. He's probably the most longest serving Republican on the island. And I thank Fred for stepping forward and staying involved, even though he's fighting some health issues. Also, as you know, part of my program to unite the party and bring the party back together, I reached out to April Newland. She is our new finance committee chair. I think April brings, many, many years. She's a lifelong Virgin Islands resident like myself. She's got contacts. She knows people. She's a mover. She's a shaker. And I welcome. Say again?
I think that's Maynard's daughter speaking to him.
Okay. Also, she has agreed to join the state committee to fill the vacancy caused by the resignation of Bob Ayers. April, welcome back to the party. I've had extensive talks with April. I think as a finance chair, we'll meet some fundraising goals. There's also her and I will be attending, I believe it's on the 26th. There's a congressman coming down. It's a little bit strange. Most of the people that are bringing them down, the Republican, are all Democrats. So we talked to Kevin Callwood, who is the organizer, and Kevin Callwood is amenable to including us in on all his future Republicans that he wants to bring to the territory. And he's agreed to do a revenue split with us. So that's a big inroads. I guess, they bring April, you might want to fill people in. They bring people in several times a year.
Yes, they Kevin Callwood has always included me. Neil Pryor is a Republican and he will be attending. And I'm working on him for a large donation to the party. But now we have a connection where anytime they bring down a Republican, we're invited to the Democrats also, but obviously we're not going to do fundraising with them. But now they've expanded it to St. Croix. So I did send the invitation to a couple of realtors in St. Croix that are registered Republicans, and they are going to be attending. And also to Val, they are going to be attending also. So we are expanding our reach. So I'm very happy that we have that connection.
Okay, thank you, April. As chairman, I've appointed an executive director, Dennis Lennox. Dennis has, vast experience. He's also to be the parliamentarian for tonight's meeting. To say the least, our meetings have not run smooth. we have proper decor that we're gonna follow. It's called Robert's Rules. And, we're gonna go by the book. And, we're not gonna have a free-for-all. If you're gonna speak, you're gonna be, addressed to speak. And, we're just gonna proceed in a civilized manner. So without objection, he's gonna chair the meeting, and he'll ensure that the current procedures and the current rules are being followed. And that's his job, is compliance. There's none of us here that are familiar. None of us have done it before. We've been part of it. But as far as the overall picture, we need somebody who knows what they're doing. And I believe Dennis is the man for the job. So Dennis, I turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairman Ackley. Will the Secretary, Ms. King, please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Gordon Ackley,
Present.
Antoinette Gums Hecht,
Present.
Alex Bonthron,
You're muted.
Alex, you're muted. I see you though. There we go. Michael Charles. Note is absent. Todd Hecht,
Present.
Andrea King, present. Randolph Maynard,
Oh, did you shut your phone off?
he's
Oh.
muted.
Or you're muted? Your phone might be muted, Maynard. Is your phone muted?
Can you hear me now? Yes, present.
Yes, got it. Harriet Mercer,
Present.
Floyd Peterson, count is absent. Fred,
No, Floyd is present.
Fred's there? I mean,
Yeah.
Floyd is
Floyd.
there. I don't see him on the screen.
Yeah,
He's on
he's
the phone because he
present.
couldn't get on.
Okay, so let's give him another. Floyd Peterson, are you there?
Like,
yeah, Floyd. We can hear
he's
you.
present, but he's on the phone.
There he is. I hear him. Okay, Floyd is present. Fred Violet. Fred is absent. Mark Zion.
Present.
April Newland.
Here.
Javon Williams.
Present.
Gideon Hurtault. Anyone know if Gideon is present? I can't hear unless he's on the
I
phone.
don't see him on the screen. I show 15 members on the screen, 15 screens.
So unless he's on the phone, I guess he's not here. So I'm going to say Gideon is absent. Lawrence James.
Present.
Alex Moorhead. Alex Moorhead absent. Michael Nathaniel.
Present.
Henderson Payne. Henderson Payne absent. Marie Picard. Marie Picard absent. Gerard Ryan. Gerard Ryan absent. Ms. Stapleton. I see you on the screen. Very good. Sheena Williams.
Present.
And Dudley Fabio.
Present.
Excellent. We have 16 present and 7 absent. So we have a quorum.
Great. Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. The chair recognizes Mr. Ackley.
I move to approve the agenda as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
The motion to approve the agenda has been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to and the agenda is adopted. The chair recognizes Mr. Ackley.
I move to adopt the rules of the Republican Party in the Virgin Islands as the rules and bylaws of the Republican Party of the Virgin Islands. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion.
The motion has been moved and seconded. The chair recognizes Mr. Ackley. Mr. Ackley?
Yes. The proposed rules that are before you, the state committee tonight, have been adopted and re-adopted by this committee, with the exception of a couple minor housekeeping changes by the Republican National Committee of Lawyers, like the quorum and specifying how the 2024 caucus will be governed. There's nothing in here that is substantially new or unheard of in state party politics. These rules have been approved by the RNC in keeping with the national party that has imposed upon the U.S. Virgin Islands and the 2020 settlement. The vast majority of the document involves reordering the rules, correcting typographical errors, updating names, ensuring consistent language throughout the rules. These rules allow our party to move forward and do things that we're supposed to do. We have spent no less than 3-4 days working with the RNC's attorneys, ironing out every little detail, and there's nothing in these rules that is against the National Committee's rules. So I urge the members to vote yes, so we can move forward and accomplish our mission. We need to quit fighting amongst ourselves, and we know who we need to fight with. And so we need to, just cut the nonsense. Let's move forward as a group. We started as a group, and we'll finish as a group. So I move to end debate. The RNC, they're at their last legs with us, and they're just not going to tolerate anymore. And if this party, goes to pieces, I honestly believe that they're going to disband the party like they did before, and they just will not recognize the Virgin Islands Republican Party for a long time. So once again, I urge members to vote yes.
There's a motion by Mr. Ackley to close debate. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
There's been a motion. There's been a motion that's been seconded to close debate. All those in favor of closing debate will say aye.
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 All
No,
those opposed will say nay.
no, no.
In the opinion of the
No.
chair, the motion carries. Debate is closed.
I
The
move,
question now before the
I
committee.
move,
The question
I
now before
move
the
to
committee.
overrule
The
the chair.
question, the
An
question now
objection,
before the
there's
committee.
objections on the floor.
Hold on.
There's
The
an
question
objection
now
on the
before the
floor.
committee.
There's an
If the gentleman,
objection on the
if the gentleman has an objection, he will properly state what his objection is under the proper procedures and rules before the party. Merely saying objection is not in order. Does the gentleman have a valid objection?
I have
Hearing
a
no-
objection.
But you have to let everyone speak.
Can you
will-
let me speak first?
Point
of order.
Never time.
Okay,
Point of
Mr.
order.
Williams, you have now correctly stated it. What would be the gentleman's point of order?
My point of order is, how are we closing debate on something that we members have so much questions about? Is this a republic or is this a dictatorship?
So
Okay.
Mr. Williams, that's not a valid point of order. A point of order is raised to address violations of the rules. There was a motion made by Mr. Ackley to close debate. The motion was seconded by Ms. Bonthron. The question now before the committee is voting on the motion to close debate. There was a vote. The ayes have already voted. The nays have not been called.
I request the yeas and nays. I request the yeas and nays.
We are in the process of calling the yeas and nays, Mr. Williams. So the yeas have already voted. Would the nays like to say nay?
Nay.
Request
Nay.
the yeas and nays. Roll call vote.
In the opinion of the chair, the motion to end debate has carried clearly by a majority vote.
Roll
The
call vote.
the question now before the committee is adoption of Mr. Ackley's motion that the proposed rules of the Republican Party in the Virgin Islands be the rules and bylaws of the Republican Party in the Virgin Islands. All those in favor in adopting the rules as presented will indicate by saying aye.
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 No.
All those opposed will
Nay.
indicate by saying nay.
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 In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The rules
No,
are
they
adopted.
No, they don't. They don't. They don't.
Mr. Ackley,
If this move forward,
Mr. Ackley
this is
recognized.
officially the end of the Republican Party in the Virgin Islands.
Mr.
Because there's
Mr.
no
Ackley
way-
is recognized.
There is no
Mr.
way
Ackley is
that the
recognized.
ayes have it, and we need to stop
No.
this right now
But-
because
but-
Mr. Ackley is
John
recognized.
Candidator right now. This is
Mr.
the
Ackley is
peak of John
recognized.
Candidator right now.
But why are you not allowing anybody else to speak? Like, what's up?
Mr. Ackley is
ludicrous.
recognized.
This is ludicrous.
Mr. Ackley, you have
of the chair, the ayes have it. Are we serious right now?
No,
In the
if
opinion
you
of the ayes, the chair has it.
Mr. Williams is not recognized. The gentleman will suspend. Mr. Ackley has the floor. Mr.
Point
Ackley.
of inquiry, when you get a minute, point of inquiry.
The gentle lady will state what her inquiry is.
Yes, yes, thank you for the opportunity, aside of the chair having the floor. This is Harriet Mercer. And what my question is and concern, my inquiry, I'm looking at the rules we just received, and we did have a cancellation of this meeting, and now we got the rules. It says RNC approved, and it's in a dark green print. I'm sure many of you have seen that. What I'm concerned about is I'm not seeing anything, and my inquiry is not an indictment to anyone. My inquiry is whether or not, how can we have proof that the RNC approved these rules that I'm looking at tonight? That's what I need to know. I see nothing. Excuse me.
The gentle lady's inquiry is not a validly stated inquiry. A point of inquiry is not an opportunity to engage in a discussion on the underlying motion. So the gentle lady's point of inquiry is invalid. Mr. Ackley, you have the floor.
Let me ask this, please, Mr. Lennox. How should I ask my question, please?
It is not the role of the chair to advise a member what the rules and procedures are of the proceedings. Mr. Ackley has the floor.
That's why we vote nay. That's my point.
The gentle lady is within her rights to vote nay. Mr. Ackley, you have the floor.
Point of information, Mr. Leonard.
The gentleman is recognized for a point of information. Will you please state the point of information?
In order to conduct business, is it your opinion that 2 members from St. Croix need to be present and 2 members from St. Thomas District needs to be present?
The gentleman is asking, I believe, about what defines a quorum. For purposes of the rules, the chair, in consultation with the secretary, by virtue of the record roll call vote, has determined that a quorum exists as per the standing rules of order that are in effect for this meeting. Mr. Ackley has the floor. Mr. Ackley.
And this is the problem. You know, it always boils down to
Point of
shouting
information.
And point of observation.
If you would ask a question, okay, I give you the floor, you give me the floor. Okay? I don't want people shouting on top of each other. Okay? This has got to quit, and it's not going to be tolerated.
To remind members would be asked not to engage in personalities, in their debate, discussions, points of order, or other interactions in the meeting tonight. If Mr. Ackley is willing to yield the floor, he's presently recognized, it's within his rights to yield the floor to another member. However, excuse me, Ms. Mercer, any member that is being yielded to would be politely reminded that their comments must be addressed through the chair and not to another member. Mr. Ackley, would you like to yield the floor to somebody?
Right. Answer me the question.
Point of observation.
Ms. Mercer, there's no such thing as a point of observation.
Well,
You're
I
not
gotta say
recognized,
something.
Mr. Ackley.
Thank you, but I'll say something. when
Ms.
it's
Mercer,
time.
Ms.
Thank
Mercer,
Thank you.
the gentle lady will suspend. Mr. Ackley.
You know, let's talk about these rules for a second. I got the floor. We've been trying to do this for a year and a half. You know, and it's really a sad day when, you know, we've discussed them. We are within the rights of the Republican Party. And I am telling you, the Republican Party has had enough of the Virgin Islands. And
Will
we went through these
legitimately
rules.
yield?
We've gone through these rules. There is nothing objectionable in the rules. The problem we have is that there's been 20, 30, 40 different versions of the rules. And even in the last week, working with the RNC back and forth, you know, we even came across things that we missed. And there's nothing perfect. And it wasn't until last night, after 4 attorneys, myself, Dennis Lennox, and Andrea, that finally Andrea noticed that we had 2 Section 12s. So nothing is perfect. The problem is, you people trying to vote no, okay, you're killing the party. We need to move forward.
Will legitimately yield?
Go ahead. I'll give you the floor.
So,
Mr. Williams.
So this is my question. You and I had a conversation about these said rules, and I spoke to you and told you that members were uncomfortable with your rules and they wanted amendments. Now, the problem that we're having here is a total breakdown. One is a breakdown of trust. Let me tell you why. We spoke about getting the correspondence from the RNC to myself. I haven't received them. I'm not sure if the National Committee woman has received them. Up to now, from the correspondence from the RNC has not hit my inbox. So that's the first issue. Now, the secretary sent out a note stating that we will adopt these rules and then change them again to include the amendments that were proposed by someone. How is that possible? How are we going to approve rules and then go back and try to amend them without them going back to the RNC?
Can I be recognized after Mr. Williams?
If Mr. Ackley is willing to yield to you, Ms. King.
Oh, hold on 1 second.
So,
I'm
So
the
my-
chair, okay? You're the committee man. Correct? Writing the rules, and going over the rules was done at the highest level of the company, CEO to legal staff of the RNC. Do you have a problem with that?
the RNC is there to make sure that we are playing by the rules. However,
And we are
if the,
playing by
if the members of this committee ask for amendments that they feel are necessary, and it was not just one member, it was a slew of members who asked for amendments to
You've
these
had
rules.
a year and a half.
It doesn't matter if they have a year and a half and trying to ramrod. Clearly, we're not interested in governing this party in a fair way.
Yes, you
I'm
are.
not. No, we're not.
Excuse me,
Because-
gentlemen, the chair would remind members not to engage in personalities and to direct the remarks through the chair and not directly to each other. Mr. Williams, you're recognized. Mr. Ackley has reclaimed his time.
I haven't targeted anybody. I am saying to you that clearly we're not interested in playing by the rules, because if the members clearly the nays outvote the yeas. And in the opinion of the chair, the yeas have it. How is that possible? If we want to be fair and transparent, how is that possible? Explain that to me.
Right.
Mr. Ackley, you're reclaiming your time.
Can Mr.
I'll give
Ackley
the floor to
reclaim his time?
Andrea.
A question to the chair. This is April Newland. I have a question to the
Go
chair.
ahead, April.
Hold on, Mr. Ackley. Ms. Newland, what you've indicated is not properly stated. So unfortunately, I can't recognize you the way you've worded it. Mr. Ackley, you have the floor.
Good. I wanted to let Andrea finish, then we'll move on to April.
Really?
Ms. King?
Okay. Okay. I've been at every meeting that we've had from the moment I was chosen or voted in as secretary. So I believe that was in January of 22. We have been around and about on the rules many, many, many times. And I have read every line of every recommendation from the RNC, which was the most recent red line version that was sent just a few days before we went into that previous meeting we were supposed to have 2 days ago, which we had to cancel because we didn't feel that it was enough adequate time to let everyone review the rules. There are very few changes aside from the change that I sent out this evening about the executive director no longer being a member of the executive committee as a voting member, but just as an advisor in advisory capacity. And I believe there was one other change, Gordon, that we had spoken about. I'm trying to remember what it was.
That change was to.
That was the succession.
In the succession.
Yes.
To, from chairman to committee man, committee woman, based upon seniority in the party.
Now, I was at the May 20th and May 27th meetings where many of you weren't there. We went over all the rules again, line by line by line, verbatim. And we agreed and voted on those rules at those meetings. Several of the people that are here tonight voted yay on the changes to those rules. I've gone through the rule draft that was sent to the RNC. It is the same as the February 18th rules that we approved as a committee. I'm just going to say that I don't know how much more scrutiny you can possibly put to this. There have been many people who are here tonight who weren't at the other meetings, and everyone's had an opportunity to go over every single line of these rules and to present that to Mr. Ackley, to Chairman Ackley, prior to tonight's meeting. Has anyone done so prior to tonight's meeting? If you have, can you state what those things are that you presented to Chairman Ackley? Because I'm not aware. I do agree with Chairman Ackley that we have to move forward. We can, and it's written right in the rules, revisit the rules as we're going to do with the two things I just mentioned and sent out to everyone tonight. We're going to revisit these rules and make those changes so that the executive committee will actually consist of only elected members, either committee members or officers of the party. We felt like that was a democratic way to approach this. Chairman Ackley agreed. Mr. Lennox agreed. I really feel like we're at a good place here. So I would like to hear from anyone who has been at recent meetings or has not attended, who's reviewed the rules, who can bring to our attention those things that they may be concerned with.
I would just remind Ms. King that it's actually Mr. Ackley's time. So if Mr. Ackley would actually like to yield, it would be up to Mr. Ackley.
Yes, I agree with Ms. King. I'll give it one last chance. Okay, you people are here, and I'm glad you showed up because most of you have not been here. You've read the rules, and I'm gonna ask you, as soon as we get through talking with April, what rule you have a problem with. April, I yield the floor to you.
Yeah,
Ms. Newland?
point of information, if that would be through the chair.
No, Ms. Newland, Mr. Ackley yielded time to you, so you actually do not need to make a point. Ms. Newland, you have the floor.
I would just like to say to the group that's worked so hard to build, and I'm absolutely astounded at what you have been able to accomplish. But I have reached out to several people that want to contribute to the Virgin Islands Republican Party. And if we can assure them that we are in agreement with how we want to go forward and the platform that you all have assembled, and that your chairman has agreed to, that we have an opportunity to do an amazing amount of fundraising. Your chairman will meet with me on the 21st with one of the most important political Republican representatives in the United States, who's willing to work with us to fundraise according to your rules and to bring down representatives, senators, and congresspersons that will agree to do fundraisers. And there are several people that have agreed to hold cocktail parties and fundraisers in their homes. I want to move forward with that as long as we have an agreement and a consolidated force that this is the way we want to go forward. If we can represent that, I think there's an opportunity to raise funds to actually make this party have enough opportunity to inform, educate, and bring on radio, TV, and other formats about how important it is to have a bicameral system where we have Democrats and Republicans in the Senate, government house, and all other areas. So I'm very excited about working on this. If we can come to an agreement, I understand the RNC is behind us. And I need to present to these people that are willing to pay $10,000, $20,000 that we have an agreement between all of us. Nothing is perfect, and you have been at this much longer than I have. But I am willing to work hard to make this a substantial organization where we have people that are willing to pledge to us. And it's not just about the money, it's about building the party. I've been a registered Republican since I was 18 years old in the Virgin Islands, never wavered once. So I'm hopeful that we can agree. If you have amendments or whatever your concerns are, yes, those are important, but it's so important to have a consolidated front. And that's all I can say as a person late to the party.
Thank you, April. I'll regain the floor here for a moment.
Mr. Ackley, you're recognized.
It goes back to, a no vote. If you're going to vote no, you got to say why. Okay. So all you nayers out there, I'm going to give each one of you. We're going to start with Ms. Stapleton, and we're going to work our way across. And I want to know the rule that you have a problem with. Ms. Stapleton, you have the floor. Have you read the rules? Ms. Stapleton. Just like my email, no one responds. Harriet, what do you have a problem with?
Mr. Ackley, the chair would remind you not to engage in personalities directed at other members.
Harriet Mercer, you have the floor. What do you have objection about? Eric, you're muted, it looks like.
Oh, sorry about that. Remember I was saying that I'm just not sure. I don't know. I have no evidence that the RNC approved these rules. I'm in the boat with, listen to me carefully. You asked the question.
Okay.
I am in the with Member Williams, and I go from there. I also see where the chairman has absolutely too much power in these rules, and I don't see anywhere for removal and so forth, things like that. However, I don't think we have to tell you why we're voting no. It's just no. Thank you.
How are we ever gonna fix it?
You would give time for the amendments. You would give time for people to bring amendments forward.
Remember, the gentleman, Mr. Ackley and Ms. Mercer will suspend. Members are reminded that they are to address each other through the chair and not to directly ask each other questions. Mr. Ackley, you're recognized.
Okay. Try to ask one more time. If you're voting no, we need to know why.
No, you don't.
Will the gentleman yield?
I'll give the floor to you, Mr. Williams.
Listen, for the longest while, right, this is why I'm so at the loss. Because for the longest while, I've been the peacemaker, trying to keep all factions together. All right? So, I've numerously stated that I've lived through this. Okay? My intent here is not to be, the killer of progress. The problem we have here is it's looking too familiar to me, okay, of the John Candidator regime, where members raise questions. If a member wants to introduce 1 million amendments, okay, at this stage, at this small group, this is all we have. Because I'm going to call the treasurer, Mr. Todd, Mr. Heck from St. Thomas, he put his name on the ballot to run to represent the Republican Party. Harriet Mercer has done the same. I have, okay? You have run for office. We have a small group to choose from. And if we start pissing off the little small group that we have,
Mr. Williams, please watch your language.
I apologize. If we start to anger the very small group that we have, soon from now, when somebody like me or somebody like Gordon wants to run for office again, we can't call them up to get 15, 20, 30 signatures because guess what? We've put a bad taste in their mouth. Okay? So respecting the members, their sovereign right to introduce amendments, it doesn't matter how long it takes. Because guess what? If we now say we're going to go back and approve or rather add amendments to this body of rules that we passed, doesn't it have to go back to the RNC again? So what is the problem of hearing the members out, taking their amendments, and sending it back to the RNC? They'll look at it.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
I have sent out the rules no less than 10 times with emails that says, send me your feedback. I received not one email from any committee member, not even you. You're complaining about something that you have not even done.
If the gentleman would yield.
Go ahead.
I have no amendments. And I stated that to you clearly. I have no amendments, but there were amendments sent out tonight from the secretary, clear as day. Those amendments could be put into this rule package and sent back to the RNC, and then we vote on it. It's done. That's what the members wanted, Mr. Ackley. That is the issue.
Can I interject at some point?
Ms. King, hold on, Ms. King.
I recognize Ms. King.
Ms. King.
So with regard to what I sent out tonight, everybody here sitting at this meeting hears what we're saying. That we're saying that what Mr. Ackley has agreed to is going to happen. It's going to happen. So after this meeting, we're going to quickly amend the rules because that has to be sent to the RNC again. but we have to vote on these rules. We have 10 days to move forward with the caucus rules. I think it's June 30th is our deadline, which is inside the rules that we've been voting on for months and months and months. So my recommendation would be to vote on the rules this evening. I will quickly do the amendments to the rules that I sent out this evening. That will then be sent to the RNC, and we'll have to have another special meeting to approve those couple of amendments. But those were something that I discovered at 12 o'clock last night after I went through every red line that can you see that? That the RNC sent. This is a very long and arduous document. You see all the check marks on it. Those are my check marks. I went through every single line item in great detail. I have read every single rule change that's come down because I'm the secretary. That's what I do. I sense that, there may be other people who need to speak and say the things that they're feeling this evening about the other amendments. But the amendments that I discovered last night were the red lines on the notations from the RNC and an email from Attorney Justin. I don't know Justin's last name, with the RNC, who suggested about 5 rule changes. Those things that I sent out this evening to everyone were the rule changes that he suggested that I found last night, because so many emails have been flying around. I've just been reading, and I finally came upon this email, and I brought it to Chairman Ackley's attention, and he agreed. We discussed it, and we agreed that it didn't make sense for the executive director, who will be an employee of our organization, to be involved as a voting member of the executive committee. We agreed that it would be myself. Chairman Ackley asked me if I would be on the executive committee, and Lawrence James from St. Croix, so we have a fair balance between St. Croix and St. Thomas. We both agreed we would do that. So the executive committee will be yourself, Javon, Antoinette, myself, Mr. James, and Mr. Ackley. So that rule has to be changed. But the RNC advised Gordon this evening that we should vote on the rules we currently have. He discussed what I just discussed with you with the RNC, and they agreed. They are sharing with him that we should move forward with the current rules that we have, because we've been round and round and round and round for a very long time. We're all here in this meeting. We're all hearing what we're saying. And I don't believe anyone will go back on what they've said. You have my word. I'm pretty sure we have Gordon's word. And this is being recorded. So unless there's other things that no one's speaking about, I would suggest that the rules that we have in place are the best rules that we've put forward after many, 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 many months of arduous work. And that's my opinion on it. And again, as I've spoken with Gordon Ackley numerous times, everything can be tweaked. Everything can be improved upon. There's no doubt about that. But I think we have a really good, solid set of rules here after quite some time of those people who are in attendance tonight, who have met on other occasions, who have agreed to everything that we have here. So that's my opinion, for what it's worth.
Mr. Ackley has the floor.
I have the floor once again. It is, I'm going to change subject, whatever, like cool minds prevail for a minute. I'd like to recognize the oldest and most dedicated Republican in the Virgin Islands. And he is back, and he's with us. And he is walking, and he is talking.
Fred, how are you? It's so nice to see you. I'm glad you're doing well.
The chair would ask the secretary to please make a notation that Mr. Violet has joined the meeting. And
Yeah,
for the
so
purposes,
I drove myself here.
So
I
noted.
walked up the hill by myself. And, I'm alive and well. I'm sorry I can't meet by Zoom because, I haven't gotten to that point as yet.
Fred, I'm so glad that you're doing well. This is April Newland, and
Yes, I
welcome
got the
back.
voice.
Welcome back, my dear.
Thank you. It's nice to be back. I had what was known as a 21-day leave. I have to be back there on the 20th, so I'm leaving, I think it's midday on Tuesday. Oh,
Good to be back, huh?
it's good to be back. And I want to thank everybody for inquiring about me. I've had quite an odyssey. I didn't know that the VA was as extensive. They moved me around to 4 different hospitals. They even sent me into a Roman Catholic assisted living home to see if I could make it on my own. And I didn't do too well there. About the last 2 days, I went down for breakfast and I couldn't get up. And what can I tell you? But they were convinced I could handle everything else. The main thing is driving a car. Without a car in St. Thomas, you can't get around. In St. Louis, they have wonderful public transportation, but not here.
Good to have you back.
Thanks.
Now you can jump into the parade. We've been discussing the rules that we've been working on for a year and a half now. And so we have people who vote no, but don't have a solution. So we're trying to come with a solution. If there's a rule section, like I said, the floor is open. You know, you talk about transparency. This is as transparent as it gets. You have your choice. Get out the rule. Tell us what rule you have a problem with.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
All right, so, question for you. So these rules could be amended at any time, right? Any meeting of the political party of the Virgin Islands, correct?
Well, let me explain. These new rules, I changed it from a simple majority, which is 50% plus 1 to 2/3. Okay, which brings more power back to the state committee. Okay. Yeah, they can be amended. The problem we have is if you go back to the 2020 settlement, we are required to submit these rules to the RNC. And we've been working with the RNC, as Ms. King stated, endlessly for the past few weeks. Nothing in these rules violates the RNC's rules. Okay? They made recommendations. When Ms. King found them last night at midnight, she called me. Okay? She did something no other 20 of you members ever did. Call me. And she said this, and she said that, and we discussed it at midnight last night. And we figured that this was a solution to move the party forward so we can organize the committees and the committees can get to work. And we would file the amended rules after the meeting for their approval. Okay. Now, you know, when I ask a question, when I send out an email with the rules, and I say it's no less than 10 times I've sent these out, not one member has ever responded.
Mr. Ackley, if I could clarify what you said, I think as the parliamentarian, it would be very helpful here. So I believe that's Mr. Nathaniel, because we have, I think, 3 Michaels. We have 3 Michaels on the committee, and only your first name is showing. My apologies, sir.
Mr. Vice Chair St. Croix.
I think to supplement Mr. Ackley's answer, we're essentially under federal. We're essentially under federal.
Don't fall asleep in here.
We're essentially under federal monitoring, and in addition to submitting it to the RNC, it has to be approved before any amendments can be considered. And then anything that we approve has to then, once it's approved, be filed with the RNC. Additionally, under the Virgin Islands law, we're also required, though the RNC is suing the Virgin Islands Board of Elections and the Supervisor of Elections. And I would actually point out that from a matter of protocol, probably Ms. Mercer should be recusing herself and not participating in this meeting since she's a defendant and we're presently suing her. But as a matter of Virgin Islands law, we are also required to submit any changes that we make to the rules to the Supervisor of Elections, and those rules don't take effect until the supervisor certifies them. So we're in a little bit of a predicament as to why, for example, we can't entertain amendments from the floor, why, for example, we can't entertain much discussion other than giving you the assurances of Mr. Ackley and Ms. King that if somebody actually has substantive feedback, that feedback will be presented at a future regular or special meeting of the state committee and will be duly considered and then sent to the RNC for their approval. I would note, as Ms. King has noted, the rules that you've approved tonight, you've already approved.
You mean going to approve?
No, Mr. Nathaniel, the motion's already been approved. This is discussion after the motion. The motion carried. The ayes had it. The rules were adopted. But the motion then. Excuse me, the gentleman is out of order. The chair is speaking. The rules that are currently in effect, as Ms. King has confirmed, you have voted 3 times. These rules were approved in February. They were subsequently approved at the first meeting in May, and then they were reapproved at the second meeting in May. And with the exception of a couple of minor housekeeping changes and the recommendations that the RNC required upon us, there have been no changes. These rules have now been approved for a 4th time since February. A 4th time since February. And with that, Mr. Ackley, you have the floor again.
Point of information to the chair.
Ms. Newland, would you state your point of information, please?
I will say that I understand that people have questions about the information that was disseminated late, but in order for the party to move forward and to be funded, we need to have a solidified front where everyone is in agreement. There are people that are investing in the Virgin Islands that want to contribute to our local committee, but only if they feel that we are a solidified voice and we're moving forward on a solidified platform. Maybe everything isn't perfect, but I agree with our chairman. If you have a specific problem with the rules, bring it forward and your amendment. Otherwise, please let us move forward, because I will tell you that there's an opportunity here to really make great progress that we've never made before.
Thank you. Ms. Mercer, hold on, Mr. Ackley. Ms. Mercer, would you state your point of information, please?
Yes, I thank Ms. Newland for saying what she just said. I would like to submit that before being a Board of Election member, I am a Republican, and I don't see anything in the rules that have anything to do with the case. I'd like to correct the record also that I have also, like some other members, called Mr. Ackley. The secretary is not the only one, and not necessarily called on the rules, but certainly called and had conversation. And I would also like to submit that I did have a solution. I don't just say no and don't have a solution. So at the right time, I'll offer you that solution. Thank you.
Mr. Ackley, the floor is yours again.
Ms.
Yeah,
Mercer,
members waiting to
now is the right time.
Okay, I'm off of mute now.
Okay, now is the right time. You have the floor. Tell us your issue.
Not an issue, sir. I already went through that part. The solution is that we indeed tonight, as you know, remember April, you have pointed out about solidifying our base and so forth. And we could tell for the contention. I would like to then that what we can do is indeed have, as the National Committee Man asks, that we get something to show that indeed these are approved by the RNC. We don't need all the red line stuff that Andrea is putting up, but we certainly need something in writing showing that, yes, they signed off on these changes or whatever. We know we've gone through them a few times, but yes, indeed, this is what you've now said final and so forth. I do not believe that we should be sending our amendments or so forth just to the chairman. I believe it should be to the entire committee so that everybody, and even the everybody outside, because we want to know, everybody in here is not on the committee, but we want to know indeed what everybody feels in terms of these rules, what could be added or taken away or changed up. I already saw something that I can strike in the order that is appeared. However, I don't want to have to just send that to a chairman. All right. I want to send my thing to everybody. All right. So that everybody can see it, I can see theirs, and we can go back and forth. I think we can do this by Monday, submit everything to be sent off to the RNC on Monday or even if Tuesday the next day. I think the weekend is long enough. Let me wrap it up. I think the weekend is long enough, and that's the solution so that we see that the rules are indeed approved by the RNC. We then move forward and make our amendments to everybody and not just send it to one person who may or may not see them all. All right, you have no guarantee. So we want to definitely just put it out to everyone and then go ahead and send it into the RNC by Monday or so, because I know, like you said, there's a deadline by the 30th. And I think that's a fair enough solution. So no need to rush. We're already on heated scales right now. So no sense to rush and approve these things when we don't have a chance to really, for whatever reason, people didn't send you maybe that's how they feel. Why should they send it to you alone? I don't know. But certainly that's one of my concerns. I wouldn't want to send it to just one person. Thank you.
Sorry,
Mr. Ackley, Mr. Ackley, the floor is yours.
I have the floor. I recognize, give the floor to Fred Bello.
I remember that we took a vote in February. And as far as I'm concerned, according to Robert's rules, what we're doing here is just out of sync. In fact, I can't think of any formal procedural body, not just Robert's rules, but there's Princeton, there's at least 10 types of rules. A vote was taken in February. I'd like to know, what is the problem now? What's the problem? And who has a problem with the vote that was taken in February?
Mr. Violette, are you?
I want to know what kind of problem could you possibly have? Because the rules, as far as I know, are the rules until they're amended or changed again. But the February vote stands. I don't care whose rules you use, whether Robert's rules or any other rules. You just can't arbitrarily decide after a stated period that you're going to have one election. Now I understand you've had 4 elections and the rules have won each time. Well, you know, that seems like that's an extraordinary discussion that really
amendments. I won't call them rule change. I call them amendments to the rules.
Mr. Nathaniel, you're not recognized. Please refrain from speaking and interrupting Mr. Violette, who has the floor.
But you asked a question.
Are you finished?
Yes, I finished because as far as I'm concerned, from what I'm hearing here tonight, the February vote stands. Now, maybe we need to recite what happened in February as to what the vote was. And if the RNC approved those rules, then what we're doing here is a moot issue.
Mr. Ackley, would you like to answer that, or would you like me to answer that?
Go ahead. You go.
So Mr. Ville, I think the issue that you raise is valid. In a normal circumstance, you would be correct. Unfortunately, we're subject to what many of us would call a consent decree. And the rules that were approved in February at the state committee's regular meeting, I believe it was February 18th, if my memory serves me correctly, were not properly presented to this body because they were not pre-cleared by the Republican National Committee, and they were not subsequently filed with the Supervisor of Elections. In May, there was an additional state committee meeting in early May. Rules were presented and adopted, and again, there were technical defects in the manner in which they were presented and adopted and did not receive pre-clearance and post-clearance. And the second meeting of May, a similar problem presented itself. But you are correct in that the rules that were voted on tonight for the fourth time and approved by this committee for the fourth time are substantively no different than the rules that were approved in February. So yes, this committee now has voted 4 times to approve this set of rules.
The rules weren't approved tonight.
And let me interject, is that we did it backwards in February. We amended the rules and then we sent them to the RNC. Right? And I even believe that the RNC forgot about the settlement agreement. And if you do your homework, the settlement agreement requires us to have RNC approval before we vote on the rules. Okay, so this is what we're doing. We got RNC approval. Ms. King has worked hours and hours till late into the night to make sure that every dot, every I, every word, every section is exactly the same, except for the RNC changes. They weren't my changes. They were the RNC changes. And we incorporated the RNC changes, and that's it.
Can I make a point to address Harriet's concern?
If Mr. Ackley, would you like to yield to Ms. King?
I'll give the floor to Andrea King.
So in all of the communication with the RNC regarding these new rules, everything was done by email. There was no formal document sent to us saying these are the rules. Everything was done by email, and I'm sorry to tell you, but it was a red line document. It's very long, and they go through every single rule and make their recommendations, and we've taken all of them. The only ones that we didn't take were the 2 that I sent out to you earlier this evening because I didn't notice them. They weren't in the version that the RNC sent. They were sent in an email by Attorney Justin.
And all we're asking is
that's what I spoke to Gordon about, or Chairman Ackley about last night. And those changes will be made.
All we're asking you to do is to approve the rules intact so we can get busy with the executive committee on the caucus rules. And at the same time, Ms. King will be sending the RNC, okay, those changes that we talked about tonight that she sent out, and they will be sent in to the RNC, and at least we can move forward tonight. And then when the RNC incorporates those last 2 changes, we will call another meeting and we'll have an up or down vote.
I call the question. I think that you have over 50 times. I'm calling the question for the vote. I think that we need to vote and move forward. We need to move forward. We're never going to get anyone to give a dime to this committee unless we move forward. Call the question.
The question has already been called. The committee has already voted to adopt the rules. We are now on Mr. Ackley's time, so there's no question to call unless Mr. Ackley has a further motion to make. But I would suggest that the agenda that has been approved, we have now exhausted that agenda, and there's no other items on the standing rules of order for us to transact. And so at this point, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Motion.
It's been moved by Ms. Mercer to adjourn. Is there a second?
No, I didn't move to adjourn. I just said motion. Can I put another motion, please?
Ms. Mercer, Mr.
Yes,
Ackley still has the floor.
Yes, and I have a motion that's supposed to supersede that.
Mr. Ackley was recognized. It depends on the type of motion. Would you like to state the motion that you have?
Of
So
course.
I can make a determination.
Yes, sir. So my motion is that we hold tonight's vote and go ahead, send in our recommendations, if any. If none received, the chairman and the secretary moves on and sends this thing to the RNC by Monday or whatever day you all elect. Give us a time by to send this up into you, any amendments and so forth. And we send it. If those want to send it to the chairman, fine. Those want to send it to everyone, fine. But we need some time to go ahead through these things. And tonight will not make a big difference between tonight and Monday. Go ahead and that's my motion that we wait.
Sure.
And we go ahead and send it in on Monday and have it time over the weekend.
Ms. Mercer, your motion, I did receive your motion. However, it would not be in order. It is not a valid motion. The rules
Why is
have
it
been
not valid?
The rules have been adopted, and under the rules that have been adopted, specifically Rule 14, if you are seeking to make an amendment to the motion, that amendment to the motion would have to occur at a new meeting of the state committee, because under the RNC consent decree, we cannot make motions on the floor of this meeting to amend the rules, let alone amendments by email, which are not accepted under Robert's Rules of Order. So if you would like to make your motion, I would suggest that you wait until the next regularly scheduled meeting of the state committee or the next special meeting of the state committee, which I believe your motion would be in order based on the assurances that Ms. King and Ms. Ackley have given that they would consider amendments if somebody had a good faith amendment in the future. So again, your motion is out of order. Mr. Ackley, you have the floor. And as I said, I believe we've exhausted the agenda, and under the rules, there's nothing else on the agenda to discuss. So I believe at this point in time, a motion to adjourn would be considered in order.
I agree. I think that, I'm transparent. I've asked everybody to speak their mind, but once again, nothing of substance. No one said that they disagree with Rule 3, Paragraph 4. No one said anything. All they said is no.
I said number 3 and part of 4. That's not true.
Ms. Mercer, you're not, Mr. Mercer, Ms.
That's
Mercer,
not true.
you're not
Stop putting things on the record that are not true.
Ms. Mercer, you're not recognized, and the chair would advise the member not to engage in personalities directed at another member. Mr. Ackley.
I have the floor. So, that being said, all right, we can't change the rules from the floor. We must submit the rules to the RNC. See, we're doing it backwards. The rules must go to the RNC before we vote on them. Not we vote on them and send them to the RNC. We can't amend them. We have to do it this way because that is what the 2020 agreement says with the RNC.
Mr. Ackley, would you like to keep the floor, or are you intending to make a motion? Or
well, unless anybody has anything of substance,
I would just like to add an information that your chair, Gordon Ackley, if the chair agrees, is to have a meeting on the 21st with someone that is a Republican investor here that has brought down senators, Congress people that are interested in investing in the Virgin Islands and donating to our Republican local party. We also have on the 26th an opportunity to meet with people that are major donors for the Republican Party. If we can come with a consensus that we agree on the progress that our party has put forward and our platform, we have an opportunity to raise funds and to bring people here to the Virgin Islands that will do fundraisers. I understand that everybody might not always agree. I understand that 100%, but we have an opportunity right now on the 26th. A major person is coming to the Virgin Islands. People are giving $10, $15, $20,000 for this person to come forward. We have an opportunity to bring to the fore that we have a united force that will build our party. I don't get anything out of this. Your chairman gets nothing out of this, but it is an opportunity that goes directly into our fund, directed by our treasurer, that builds our party. It has nothing to do with me whatsoever. But please, we need to come together. We might all not disagree, but we have this opportunity to come together. Thank you.
Anybody have anything else? Well, I'll raise a point of order.
The gentleman, Mr. Ackley will state your point of order, please.
My point of order is participation is heavy tonight. I really appreciate that. My question is, there's a lot of us that have not been here, and the rules, whether you use May rules, February rules, 2020 rules, the section that pertains to people who've missed 3 meetings, they're out.
Would the gentleman restate the point of order that he's making?
Well, my point of order is that those people are no longer on the committee.
I believe I understand the gentleman's point of order, that he is saying that there were members whose names were called during the row who are absent tonight, and under the standing rules of the party, if you miss 3 consecutive meetings, including a meeting in which you're present by proxy, you're no longer on the committee. According to the roll that the secretary has called, I believe the members that Mr. Ackley are referring to that are no longer members of the state committee would be Mr. Payne, Mr. Ryan, Mr. Peterson, and Mr. Charles. If the secretary can confirm that Mr. Charles, Mr. Peterson, Mr. Payne, and Mr. Ryan are not present tonight, is that correct?
Then point of order, Dennis.
The committee woman will hold her point of order for 1 moment while the secretary verifies that Mr. Charles, Mr. Peterson, Mr. Payne, and Mr. Ryan are not present tonight.
Well, Mr. Moorhead.
And Mr. Moorhead. The gentleman will suspend because a point of order that takes precedence has been made by Mr. Ackley. I've asked the secretary to verify that the roll is accurate. Once the secretary gets back to the chair on the outstanding point of order, I will then yield to the committee woman for her point of order, after which Mr. Williams can state his point of information.
Okay. Those people absent tonight were Michael Charles, Gideon Hertalt, Alex Moorhead, Marie Picard, bear with me one moment, and Gerard Ryan. I believe that's everyone. And is Michael Nathaniel, is he at the meeting tonight? I can't hear that. Say that again.
Yes, he's here.
He's here. Okay. All right. Hold on. I have that correct. I apologize. Alex Moorhead. Did I mention him? Should I read the list again?
Yes, the secretary will read the list of the absent members.
Okay. Michael Charles was out. These are the absent members. Michael Charles, Gideon Hertold, Alex Moorhead, Henderson Payne, Marie Picard, and Gerard Ryan.
Thank you. Is Mr. Peterson here? Okay. So it is the opinion of the chair that Mr. Ackley is correct pursuant to Rule 7, Section 1, which reads, and I state as follows, that that a member who misses 3 meetings, including meetings in which they're represented by proxy, are no longer members of the state committee. So yes, Mr. Ackley is correct that Mr. Charles, Mr. Payne, Mr. Ryan, Mr. Hertold, and Mr. Moorhead are not currently serving members of the state committee, and he would be entitled under the rules to fill those vacancies with a person of his choosing. The committee woman is recognized for her point of order.
You mentioned Floyd Peterson in there. I just wanted to let you know that Floyd Peterson is in the meeting.
Right. No, I have him. I apologize. I have Floyd noted as being here. If I mentioned that was an error.
Appreciate
That was corrected. That is why at the beginning of the meeting it was emphasized that members who are together calling in on one device are highly encouraged to participate in their meeting on their own unique device, so that there's no misunderstanding of who is and is not present. I believe Mr. Williams seeked to make a point of information. Mr. Williams, would you please state your point of information?
Have you checked the log to see if people were trying to get into the meeting? Are there people in the queue right now trying to get into the meeting?
As far as I know, there's no technical problems.
That's not what I asked, my good sir. I'm asking if there are people still trying to get into the meeting.
I believe the gentleman is asking a point of inquiry and not a point of information. So while it's not properly stated, the chair will entertain it. We have called the roll on multiple occasions. It was just subsequently re-verified by the secretary. No person has interjected that they're here present, but regardless, under the standing rules of order, any member who misses 3 meetings, including meetings in which they're present by proxy, automatically disqualify themselves for the state committee. And all of those members missed more than 3 meetings going into tonight. So regardless of whether they were present tonight or attempted to be present, they ceased to be members before tonight's meeting. So the gentleman has
point of information.
Well, the gentleman will state his point of information.
So it is the opinion of the chair that we will remove from our membership Michael Charles, a man who went and put his name on the ballot to run as a Republican for our party from the membership. That's what's about to happen?
The gentleman's, again, I believe he's misusing a point of information, but for the sake of the discussion, the chair will answer his question. It is not my determination that a member is removed or not. It is within the rules that a member who ceases to attend for 3 consecutive meetings, including meetings in which they're present by proxy, are automatically disqualified. That's a decision of interpretation that the chairman and others will have to make. I'm merely iterating what the rules state. I'm not in the position to determine who is or isn't a member. And I would note under the rules, it's not a vote of the state committee. It's automatic if somebody fails to attend. And based on the secretary's role, there are several persons now who've missed at least 5 meetings of the state committee, consecutive meetings of the state committee. Mr. Ackley, the floor is yours again.
Okay. Anybody have anything else before we adjourn? I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Ackley has moved to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Gina?
There's a motion, there's been a motion made to second. All those in favor of adjourning indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. In
Nay.
the opinion of the chairs, the ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned at 8:33 p.m.
Thank you.
Shit show.
Night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for your participating.
We don't care.
Good night, everybody.